Increasing one's IQ is not impossible. I've done it. Studies prove musical instrument learning alone increase your IQ, at least on a test, on like follow-up 1 month, 3 month out tests of IQ. Now, whether the G factor is increased and the raw intelligence in the cerebral constellation is increased, that's another more nuanced question. However, I can prove to you here very clearly and easily, and please do watch on 2x speed for your own sake of time. That's probably one I should add in here. Time. If one were to devote themselves to one desire, namely development, not only will they increase their IQ, but they will do so with perceived ease. And we're going to get into how you can. If you devote yourself to this desire, you'll not only set yourself up for the longest, healthiest, most optimal vision of the future for the future. You'll literally experience almost instant transformative cognitive improvements. Really. And I know this because I've done it. And before you go saying and going into Google and asking ChatGPT, this guy's saying that you can increase IQ. My cat is literally on my mic right now trying to take the whole system down. No. Can you? Hello. As I was trying to say, basically, I'm going to list you a couple of habits, more than a handful. You do these habits, and then you come back to this video, and you tell me if your IQ, you feel, if it's subjectively increased. You tell me. And if it doesn't, maybe you've just got inferior genetics, maybe I'm just Superman, maybe both of us are idiots, and maybe neither of us can really tell the answers unearth the answer through such imprecise self-experiments. But let's have a bit of a collective experiment on this topic. Let's do it. I challenge all of you to try to increase your IQ honestly and authentically before you go and decry myself as a charlatan. Okay? So number one, first habit, reading. Very simple, but I actually mean, let's just put it this way. Let's say one were to devote themselves fully to development. What would they read? Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche. How about that? Because Nietzsche, he will stretch your brain. Now, he's kind of the example of when you go to the precipice, look off the cliff, and then plunge in, and then you discover how bottomless the abyss down there is. That's what reading Nietzsche, and that's what embarking to read Nietzsche would be. He's the most famous philosopher, probably one of. Don't read him if you're not ready for it. He's also prose-wise. If you're not a nonfiction reader, I would not recommend starting with him. But, even for a lot of versed, veteran nonfiction readers, Nietzsche's going to be too dense. Okay, but still, the being who fully devotes themselves to this desire, they're going to want they would read Nietzsche. So that's number one, reading, and fiction and nonfiction as well. Now, number two, meditation. And my argument is basically this: you do all of these things, or even 90% of them, or even half of them. You come back to me in a month, a year, even a couple weeks, really, and you tell me that you don't think your cognition has subjectively, the way you perceive it, you tell me it hasn't improved. I'm open to being wrong. Maybe for some people you just can't increase IQ. Maybe the title and the clickbait thumbnail is just that, clickbait. Maybe I'm completely full of horse crap myself, but I doubt it. My experience certainly counter-argues, and this is how so. Now, meditation, number two. This is a literal... It's a steroid for the plant of cognition. The constellation will literally multiply. The neurons, the planets, the voids, these supernovas. We're talking about neural explosions. When you start to meditate, literal neural roots grow from the prefrontal cortex, from the frontal lobe, those higher executive function areas of the brain, deeper into the insula, that inner core kind of primitive instinct emotional side of the brain, right? You're literally going to start to grow these kind of neural roots, I call them, wrapping around these trunks and these crevices, these trenches within the insula. Meditation, now this is rough and metaphorical translation of what actually happens, or at least what science believes, keyword, actually happens, namely that basically you're going to have better emotional control through one mechanism or another. We decide to mostly arbitrarily categorize it as, right? Nomenclature, language, words, these things are necessarily imprecise. The point remains, and I hope it's taken nonetheless, that simply to meditate is to, for a moment, return to the proper mode of human function, not having a left brain dominant life, right? The default mode network itself is going to be left brain dominant if you're an American, or if you're really for anyone. I think actually I don't know if there's any society left that we can categorize and label as right brain dominant rather than left brain dominant, which we all are. When you meditate, you start to unlock that right brain, that wiser older brother who's illiterate, but because he's illiterate, closer to God, more religious, more grandpa, right? Intellect is more on the left side, wisdom is more on the right side. Okay, you go fact check this with ChatGPT, and if you look deep enough for more than a second or two or a couple searches, you'll very clearly come to the same conclusion I have, because it's actually irrefutable. At least that the left brain is literate, the right brain is the illiterate one. This is the intellect, and also, by the way, more IQ centers of the brain. IQ hotspot derivations of IQ hotspots for IQ derivation are more homed in the left brain rather than the right brain. And I actually argue, and this is the last thing I'll say because we're going to get into the weeds here, that's because current IQ tests measure the dominant driver and source of intellect in society, namely the left brain intellect, because we're dominated by the left brains. Our society is dominated by the left brain's nectar rather than the right brain's nectar. Right, the right brain is more creativity. It's more. What would you say? It's illiterate. It's illiterate. Needless to say, I really did not need to make this such a massive tangent about left brain, right brain. It's just when you meditate, you're gonna get into a wordless chant of not nothingness, but the language of God, right? To meditate is to leave the tongue of man and return to the language, to the tongue of the gods, of God himself. You want to find God? Close your eyes, enter that space between what's wrong and right, between imprecision and hierarchical will to power, right? Enter that meditative space. Become a little more right-brained, okay? Meditate, please, for the love of God. Also, if you don't believe any of that stuff, if that's just a little bit too much for you, just look up the studies on the cognitive effects of meditation, okay? Trust me. Number 3, one-legged balance work plus meditation. I'm just going to tell you this and just leave my opinion. If it were up to me, everybody would do this in the morning or sometime in the day, every day. Stand on one leg. When you get pretty good at that, start meditating on one leg, okay? Do them at one. And then number 3, the third is one-legged meditation, and then do ankle circles, like the warm-up, like just ankle circles with the leg that's in the air while you're also meditating, obviously. There's different echelons of specialization, skill, competence. Work up that ladder and then get to where you can meditate for 20 minutes, for 30 minutes, for an hour, for more than an hour. I've never even gotten to 20 minutes. I'm not even close, but I will. And it's because you get to where you can meditate for like 3 hours. I mean, that might be world record type of. I mean, this is a very hard skill. I mean, it's a very hard skill. But get to where you can do this for 10 minutes and meditate for 10 minutes, one leg in the air. For most people, that's going to take probably months if they ever get to it, right? That will work your brain in some of the best ways man knows how to. Now, dual writing, number 4. This is arguably even better than all the other ones. This is why I love this list. These are the best things I've found that are in perfect cohort with this one desire, namely development. Dual writing is when you learn to write, firstly, with your non-dominant hand. That's the prerequisite for this even higher skill. Write with both hands, this means, simultaneously. And then the second echelon of this skill is write different things at the same time with both hands. Number 3, write different things at the same time with both hands, but language dependent hands. Well, it's like write with your left hand Spanish, right hand English, and different ideas nonetheless, right? And then you can see how you can branch out these competencies and just keep increasing the complexity. Number 5, bilingualism. This one is, I should caution you, because if you want to, I don't think you should pull the trigger on becoming bilingual, not because it's a hard skill and I'm going to make you innocuous, idiotic NPC warnings. Like, beware, it's not that hard, it's not that easy, it's not for everybody, it's going to take a lot of time and effort. No, that's just retardation. This desire is for people who have not taken the blue pill of retardation and mediocrity and averageness, okay? And if you're offended at the word retardation, get away from this channel, okay? I want to alienate people who are offended easily by thought, because guess what, buddy? All thought, rather than just rehearsed, programmed NPC-ness, all thought is offensive to some degree, bud. That's what intellectualism is, self-challenge and then challenging other people, all right? So bilingualism, the reason why I say all this is because I have a very deep hatred for things that try to keep people average rather than what they really are, namely superior. A lot more people are superior than the bulk of America would like to believe. A lot more people have potentialities that are very high. Okay, to not get too philosophical. Let me get to the heart, the crux. So bilingualism. There are some studies that suggest monolinguals are more efficient, that they can basically stratify, at least their native language stratifications are more efficient, advanced, better than a bilinguals. Because the bilingual, and the because doesn't matter. Some studies are suggestive of a kind of negative effect when you become bilingual to some aspects of cognition. Now, the more that research that comes out, as far as I can tell, and I'm not aware of every single one, but I have been following this for a fairly long time now. I keep up with it, every few months if not more frequently. Basically, I think the bilingual benefits outweigh the monolingual benefits, and it's not even close. So I would just preface with that. You should probably read some of the studies, read at least halfway a lot of the studies yourself, at least a couple, and see if you think the advantages of bilingualism are worthwhile. I think they are, for many reasons, and that's why I have it on this list. Contemplative exercise. This is something... And actually, let me do this one first. Meditative exercise. Actually, these are basically the same. Yeah, no, I'm actually going to delete this one. Those are actually the exact same thing. A contemplative exercise. This is what you don't want to be doing too many meditative exercises, like meditation, which is really the only real one, the purest one, the only undiluted one. What you want to ideally do to not run into so as to not turn the virtue of meditation into something of a vice. You don't want to guard against that, even though you don't fully understand what that would be. Just trust me, it exists. I've encountered it. You want to have a contemplative exercise before, to basically guardrail against the potential negatives of meditation. You don't want to just meditate. You want to meditate and then go have a walk and be in a deep melancholy introspection, reflection, and analytical daydreaming. You want to have that. You don't want to get to the state where your mind has become so trained to do nothing and just live in the desireless robot almost, right? It can become almost a robotic nothingness where you're just stuck there. You don't want to get in that non-creative shell of consciousness, addicted to nothingness and the escape state. You want to have a contemplative exercise where you let your mind, you release that, you relinquish that lasso you put on, you wrangle your mind with, the puppy of your mind with, in meditation. You want to go and walk, dream, nightmare, as in the verb form of nightmare. Go have a contemplation, right? All right, that's enough for that. Physical exercise, I don't need to mention anything else. Just I will mention a couple of things that no one else will tell you. Do supersets. You want to basically maximize the amount of willpower required in every workout. You're not actually after the physical transformations. Not if you actually not primarily, not if you're actually devoted to this desire development. You're actually after the cognitive effects more than all. You want to maximize the willpower required. You do this through supersets. You do this through innovative exercises. For example, work on your bilingualism by speed walking in isolation, getting some of your contemplative exercise in, while alternating between walking for 3 to 5 minutes and then doing like horse squats. And after the horse squats, to superset, you do one-legged balance work. Okay, you can stack these so wonderfully. And not that one necessarily, but you can stack so many of these together, and it just compounds, makes the effects exponential, even more exponential than they already will be. Should you even adopt 1 or 2 or 3 of these, right? Whatever. Hopefully you do all of them at some point. But perfection is a horizon that always recedes, so therefore don't get too. There's another vice on here that's like getting too caught up in development. You can have the desire of development as your only one. There's also an over the line desire, which is to perfect development. Perfection is a horizon that always recedes, my friends. Don't get caught. So I'll leave that with physical exercise. Just do supersets and do weird stuff. Swim. Don't go to the gym. Swim, run. You can go to the gym too. That's great. But there's a lot better ways to do it, in my opinion. Just get some dumbbells and do some push-ups and do some handstands and some running and walking. You don't have to waste time driving 30 minutes to the gym, wasting your money with a gym membership. Be mentally flexible. Don't get too rigid and dogmatic in your habits. We're habitual creatures, and often to the point of making good things, positive things, negative. Now, next one, writing. If you want to become an agile thinker and intellectual, right, you gotta write in some form. Just read this. Marcus Aurelius, if that's how you pronounce his name, I don't even know. Meditations. Read Meditations and make your own meditations. Start a document and do your own meditations, okay? Or something more. Fiction, it doesn't matter. Write. That's all I'm going to say there. Monetize the works you have bled for. If you've bled for something, try to monetize them in as much as you can. A job. You should have a job, something of a job, no matter what. Even if you're not getting paid, even if you're not working for somebody. You should be something of an entrepreneur, even if it's kind of long-term investment, self-investment. Even if that's what it is, in the worst case. Just be wary. I think I would advise to just be wary of becoming a habit addicted cog who just works. Don't sacrifice your desire or desires if you're that dangerous and daring. Don't sacrifice your potential happiness and the potentiality of yourself for some job. Don't slave away for any. I think not Naval Ravikant as well. Again, if I already mentioned him, said, you should never slave away for someone else. You should only slave away for your own enterprise, not someone else's. Pretty much, that's a paraphrase. So that's what I'll say there. Social work. With your social, there's one theory about how humans, I'm going to check my time, evolved to be so smart. And one of the reasons, and it's very interesting, is it's called like social cognitive theory or something. The nomenclature doesn't matter. The theory posits basically Humans, a lot of human cognition was derived and is today derived still from our socializing. I like this theory a lot, and we're not going to get into those weeds, but what I will say is because of this, to whatever degree it's true, it doesn't matter. Some of it is true. That's what matters. And therefore, we must develop our social connections. You have to have preferably a couple long-term friends. So there's a lot of memories, mostly unconscious, you juggle and try to distill from the perfect brew to drop in the form of verbal words and jokes and inside jokes and memory, nostalgia trading and reminisce trading. Get into as deep of conversations as you can with as many people as you can without the futility of language and the futility of conversation, which we humans are also addicted to. More so extroverts, you got to be more careful of that one than introverts. And I will also say this is one I really got to warn against, especially if there's any Nietzsche readers or even Jung or just any philosophically interested people in here. Our goal is to drop into something of a non-philosophy, more precisely, kind of a stoic, non-philosophical philosophy, right? Because we don't want to try to turn every conversation into something artificial, right? There's two things you can do in conversation. Craft every word. I think Jordan Peterson said this. Craft every word into to get what you want, or number two, actually just say what you think. And my point is, well, okay, Jordan Peterson, but what you actually think is not necessarily disconnected from what you want, right? But that's a philosophical point, and we don't want to actually get too philosophical in conversation, right? You can't really be like I'm being right now on this video in isolation through talking to a camera. You can't be this philosophical, generally speaking, in conversations, and if you are, you got to be damn careful. It's quite a skill. It is one of the loftiest skills to, I think, just in my own experience, and as much as I can grade myself because of all the self-bias, clouding my vision, my self-memory, reflection, and vision. But still, regardless, I still think, to some degree, one of the loftiest skills, definitely, probably the loftiest social skill, is trying to get the philosophical states organically, when all you are really is just a philosophy addict. Right? For those kind of people, there's nothing loftier. Because really, the social dance of human interaction it's just one of the most beautiful things. Also, remember in your travels, humor, laughter in practically any form, but especially just the kind of rhinoceros laughter, the ancestral father laughter, which you just can't interrupt. You know that kind of laughter I'm talking about when it drops, when it bellows out of the mouth of some bearded father of the ancestral or spiritual type. You just can't interrupt them. That kind of celestial laughter. You want to approach and you want to be more oriented toward evoking and eliciting laughter than philosophy. That's a relatively good guardrail, I would say, to place yourself on the inside of, rather than consistently and constantly jumping out of, which you will do at some point if you are the wisest rather than the wise or the wiser. That's another point. We are not going to get into the weeds though. I'm just going to wrap it up and conclude by saying this. Balancing the tightrope of the social ballet is a skill you want to be developing daily. Really, even if you're highly, highly introverted, and trust me, I think I'm 90th percentile or higher in introversion. So, and even for me, there's got to be something. There's got to be some socializing every day, even when I want to do nothing but just read Nietzsche, write, meditate, and exercise. Like a lot of days, that's all I want to do. But you need someone in conversation to midwife your thoughts, and you need to midwife their thoughts as well. That's the word Nietzsche used in one of his what was it, Beyond Good and Evil, I think. He used that term to describe something of a similar phenomenon, if I remember correctly. But that's besides the point. What I'm trying to tell you is just Develop the skill of conversation. Moving on, right? I could talk about that for all day because it's way more complex than that. So are all things, at least to a philosopher. In all actuality, are they that complicated? Debatable. Again, a matter of philosophy itself, I would posit at the very least. Maybe you just think it's all pomp and British and unnecessary, but who knows? All right, fun but difficult games. This one you gotta play, especially if you're male and young and Gen Z in this age. You can leverage this one in so easily. I mean, this is just effortlessly. Play Polytopia. It's Elon Musk coined that as the best strategy game of all time. He literally said. I would not go that far, but it's certainly one of the best ones. It's certainly very fun. I play it very often. Black Ops 3, this one I've played literally off and on for like literally 7 to 8 years. Black Ops 3 I think is the best FPS shooter ever, and it's because if you watch the professionals play back when it's prime, back when the pros were playing this, they did not even know about not even half of the strategies now played in public matches, often, at least in competitive, in high level public matches today. And that just tells you how much depth there is in BO3. That is if you play FPS stuff, BO3, even though it's not dead, but it's getting there. It's getting there. I recommend BO3 if you love FPS before it dies. But so you can, I mean, trust me. And then Kingdom Rush, that's a great one as well. But the specifics don't matter. These are just some recommendations that are all amazing. And they're very different genres, actually. The fact is, if you're male and you're young, even if you're female, probably, you will like one of these games. Almost, certainly, bro. Certainly you'll like one. All amazing games. If you play Kingdom Rush, though, make sure you're playing on veteran. Don't be a puss. Come on. Play it on veteran. Come on now. Chess. I hate chess. I cannot, especially online chess. I can do puzzles. I cannot play online chess games. There's the amount of creativity in chess varies so much that it just is maddening because you'll have a couple games, a couple puzzles that'll just be brain stretching in the perfect way, and then you'll have puzzles and games that just are literally nothing but memorization, patience, and clockwork. I mean, it's like 9 to 5 clockwork of an NPC, habitual, programmed, zero consciousness required. Just do what you've done 1,000 times before. So I would be careful with chess, but generally speaking, especially if you're low in openness and high in IQ and very high in conscientiousness, obviously, chess is the place for you. Like, play chess now, start now. You trust me. There's 1,000 reasons to do that. Working smarter, not harder. A lot of people throw this around, but they don't actually know what it means, and they don't actually practice it whatsoever. So here's an example of actually working smarter. Instead of playing chess for an hour and then playing Kingdom Rush or Black Ops 3 for an hour or 30 minutes, this is what you would do if you actually if there was a person out there who possibly could be fully devoted to this one desire, right? Which is a topic of debate itself. Interleaving is the skill we've named when you basically do 5 minutes of bilingualism, 5 minutes of dual writing, 5 minutes of BO3, 5 minutes of meditation, and then repeat, right? Some cycle of basically leaving mid-activity, right? Interleaving. And the theory basically goes, your brain will remember things better, it'll perform better, and just for a lot of reasons, it basically upgrades cognition in a lot of maybe near infinite, nigh infinite ways when you choose to work smarter and not harder. You should never be exercising alone, right? I mean, maybe you want to just take a break and one day, or like for most of a workout, you want to just exercise if you're just fed up with it and you need a break. Okay, maybe. That's debatable, though, if that's actually more beneficial than not. The fact is, generally, you should be reading or meditating or listening to music and just dropping into that meditative musical reception. You should be complementing exercise and the rest time needed, 3 to 5 minutes, by the way, if you want to be doing it optimal or even close to optimal. You need to be pairing and stacking these things. And exercise is one of those examples. You don't have to just sit there scrolling through Instagram for 5 minutes between sets. Do something else, for the love of God. Don't waste your time like that. All right. Now, time, this one kind of goes in with this one. Save your time in as much as you can. the present moment is the only thing we all have. The past and the future are nebulous things, and to fixate on either of them is to play with the calibration of time, and to play with the calibration of time is to risk losing pieces of yourself in the past or the present. Therefore, just be wary of that. Also, secondly, therefore, just be cognizant of how you spend your time, of how the present moment, of how you're going to flow with the present moment, or rather press against the flow and the grain and the current of the present moment, and kind of trudge up the waterfall in the river rather than flowing with it. You want to have a balance, but what I'm just telling you is try to recognize there is a balance, and in all likelihood, you haven't found the balance. I probably haven't found it very well either, if at all, right? Just be wary. There is a balance, there is a rhythm, there is a highest current of wind, not so easily caught, but when you catch it, you'll know. And when you catch the correct use of time, the correct use of prescience, and just the being in the present moment, when you catch that, an entire new skill tree of abilities and upgrades to your character within the game of life will be made known to you. And then more, I really, guys, please comment. I know I missed a couple. When I do this, I always miss a couple. I mean, some more might be sports, journaling with a cursive writing, journaling in a notebook rather than typed, healthcare, nutrition. There's a lot of stuff I missed here, but please, in the comments, please, for the love of God, no one ever does this. Please, this time, it would melt my heart if even someday, long after I'm dead, somebody in the comments would write more. It's a community effort, man. I know somebody else out there has some wonderful, just out-of-the-box ideas like this, which ChatGPT just does not know. And even if it does know, technically, because it knows everything, right? It's got the internet's knowledge. It won't easily divulge it. And because of that, it practically, in essence, doesn't know it. At least for the human's purposes, which is the only relevant purpose as of now, right? Let's hope that doesn't change. Let's hope that doesn't change, I mean. And therefore, on that note, thank you. Please meditate today. Please get great sleep. And guess what? If you do these things, if you set yourself up one desire, like development, and then afterward you plan even longer term, after you have sufficiently developed, you are aimed toward fatherhood, fathership, motherhood, and probably motherhood and mothership. And then you act on it and implement these habits, and you can set up these habits with the proper amount of change within and the neuroplasticity promoting stuff. You can actually reduce anxiety literally just by letting your unconscious and these stimuli recognition modes of the brain see the direct progress toward your desire and or desires, right? Because technically even now I have these two. I'm only focused on one fully right now, but this one is a corollary. With that being said, thank you so much. See you later.